You know, it almost feels like spring.
It really
It
does.
was like 50 something degrees this afternoon. I wasn't wearing sweatshirt at one point, just a normal shirt, like a long sleeve shirt.
It was like 48 here too.
We're literally in the middle of winter. It's like supposed to be peak winter. I know just for saying that we're gonna get hit by something next week. Like here, it's just
It
gonna.
always gets the coldest in like February,
Yeah, yeah, it's
early February.
true. But still, it's this is unusually warm. I wouldn't actually mind if it stayed this temperature for another 4 or 5 months. Be kind of nice, cool.
Right, it is a really good temperature.
I felt like there was no environmental factors impeding activity. Like at no point did I feel like yeah it's oppressively humid or oppressively hot or oppressively cold. I think just a couple of weeks ago, I remember sitting down just thinking like, I wish my nose would work. I wish my sinuses would function properly because it was so dry. I know we talk about like the additional like or the sub seasons within seasons that occur, but I'm not sure what the heck this is. This is like a Indian spring or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it holds.
It's not supposed to, but
But theoretically, it's not supposed to be this warm.
that too. I think the real problem that I have is this is the kind of weather that I would like associate with, you know, further south of here, a lot further south, or a coast, even. I think it really just means that I have no idea what weather is supposed to be anymore. And we always grew up with like, oh yeah, it's Indiana. Just wait 10 minutes and the weather will change. But that was like within like the framework of the kind of weather one would expect within a season. I wonder if there's any other kind of weird meteorological events happening. Yeah, there's like nothing happening right now.
Yeah, we lucked out and we got a pretty mild winter so far, at least.
Let's see. Yeah, we've got a like a. It's gonna be a El Nino apparently.
Interesting.
Yeah, La Nina's exit and El Nino's potential for.
Well, the Midwest had a pretty mild summer, so
Yeah, I think the whole year was summer was mild everywhere.
hmm
I don't remember. Actually, I don't have good weather memory now. Now that I think about it,
well, there weren't too many extreme weather events either, because the
there was like flooding.
well, and
Yeah,
at that
the flooding in Texas, fires in Los Angeles. That's like it.
right.
Everything
Well, I
else is
always
somewhere
say that
else.
because the storm chasers just didn't have much going on. So you know the storm chasers are down bad when they're like covering floods.
They were too aggressive and they chased all the storms away. Yeah, it looks like it was high temperatures and drought mostly, except for the areas that flooded.
Right. It sounds like there's some sort of imbalance going on. Dry in one area, flooding in another. No
There was
equilibrium.
only one EF5 tornado and only four EF4s, and then 36 EF3 or lower. Oh, no, no. Those were F3s, EF3s.
Well, there
People,
weren't too many hurricanes either,
no, there
or
weren't.
at least like not that hit the mainland. There were a couple that they just didn't hit the mainland.
I know that there was some like atmospheric river action up in the Pacific Northwest, and there were some roads that got washed away. And
Yeah, there's some landslides for sure.
2025 was pretty mild compared to 2024. It looks like. Yeah.
Well, and it's like the AI stuff has gone pretty much silent. They've been ever since 2025 happened and AGI didn't happen. It's like the American companies have gone silent.
So less AI activity correlates to less weather, extreme weather events. Interesting. The world's computational power is combining to affect weather.
It definitely started with the crypto farms or the
Oh yeah,
mining
all
farms,
the heat.
and they started affecting the electricity costs.
You know, there's actually like an upside to the impending RAM apocalypse, or I guess it's already started. Of RAM apocalypse is that it'll force coders to actually, become way more efficient with their work. Like software will have to become more efficient. It'll have to take advantage of what's available instead of just saying, yeah, "Give me more," because there won't be more. And what is available is like unobtainium for most people.
Well, and that's the I think that's the utopian outcome, but I'm not sure.
I mean, obviously, not every company's development team is going to have the skills or resources to deliver on that kind of idea, but a few of them will. Maybe like 3 or 4% will.
Right, and I mean, I think in that I don't I don't think much new software is going to be produced in the
Yeah.
next 5 to 10 years is
Actually,
the
I think
issue.
I think all of the software that might be able to do that already is, and it has always been memory efficient. Also efficient on resources, like how much it can actually does per clock cycle. I see a lot of, especially games that are just like, yeah, let's just make the GPU do it. The GPU will already do all these other things. Let's just let it fill in the blanks. I think that's why a lot of games are starting to look very similar to each other.
Well, and so many games are physics at this point where because of the demand for hyper realistic game visuals, and in the process the capacity to interact with the world in mundane ways like the real world, then you have computer processing eating up shit to like render birds interacting with each other in the background. And if you don't have it, then these people complain, but then a lot of the game coding is eating up is being eaten up by coding the mundane things that are meant to make an escapist reality closer to our reality, but I feel stupid even saying it, but it's like those people don't understand how to have fun is the problem. And hyper realism doesn't actually equate to fun. It just is more real.
I don't want my games to look more real. The games that are most nausea inducing are the ones that attempt to cross the uncanny threshold. Like I can play Mario Kart almost endlessly. I can play Mario almost endlessly.
Well, and on that note, a lot of people in
Even
the sim,
Sonic the Hedgehog I can play on like almost endlessly.
but it's not trying to be real, and that's
Exactly.
where like people in the sim racing community get hyper fixated on the notion of reality or reproducing reality in ways that then if you ask real race car drivers, it doesn't it doesn't equate to reality. It's something else, and it's definitely simulated driving, but it's not hyper. It's not real, and the people who do that don't really seem to be having fun when they're doing it, and it's all about getting time off of their lap and getting faster and like competing online with other people, and they could do it all day except for the fact that it's actually physically taxing, so then you can't, where
Yeah, you gotta pee
either
sometimes.
well that but your joints or your muscles are going to give out, one or the other is going to give out
Yeah.
first. Even your tendons are going to start, going to start getting tendonitis. And so seeing these people push themselves to the extreme for simulated driving with the intent of validating the process, it's funny having done real sports in that sim driving is a real sport, but it's not as intense as actual driving, and they want it to be as intense, so they kind of like overcompensate by not having fun.
I've seen some not racing simulators, but some like first person shooting simulators. Actually, no, there is one racing. It's a motorcycle simulator where it'll actually throw you off the bike. But I've seen some like combat simulators
See,
where,
that's too
yeah,
much.
no, I
That's too
know.
much.
It'll like straight up like there's like if one were to dump the clutch and just launch the thing, it would actually pitch back and like fling you off of itself. And then there's a video of a guy who plays a flight simulator, a flight combat game, probably DCS, but he's got fans and I think he's got some kind of space heater, like a propane torch behind him, and there are things that shoot like I guess fireworks in the room, kind of like flares, and it's just real wild. Like this is too much. I saw a Red Dead simulator that this person has in their I guess attic game room, and it has a horse that they ride. Like it just kind of like a mechanical bull, except it's set on gentle. That's like a whole different level of just crazy involved. I get having a whole room. I get like the driving simulator, the cockpit simulator for flying, even building a spaceship if someone's really into like Everspace or one of those games or but yeah, like a motorcycle that flings you off of it or a horse, a mechanical horse. Like, what's next? A boxing simulator that can punch back? Oh shit! Now I gotta find out if that exists.
Somebody definitely made a first person shooter simulator where it has like um fireworks attached to it.
Yeah.
So if somebody's like shooting at them, then it will like, set off some um the rounds that make it sound like machine guns, but also shoot like Roman candles at them. Where
Yeah.
it's like it's you know, it's funny in theory, but then when some shit gets set on fire and like the house burns down, then it's like, okay, was that worth it? I guess you were immersed. It was immersion for sure.
I mean, just imagine somebody putting on a bunch of armor and carrying around a shield and a sword so they could play Warhammer or Dungeons and Dragons or Warcraft or whatever. Like,
Right, the amount of miles you'd end up walking if you don't have fast travel.
oh, like and there's a
How much of it would just be
oh, the
being exhausted from walking with a bunch of armor and your inventory?
have you seen the videos of the tank simulator the guys made where they load like 2 liter bottles into the thing and they've got like three.
Yeah, somebody told me about it at a party. It was I brought up sim racing and they were like told me about that. So that was
They've got like a whole team. They I'm serious. It's like the guy who's driving the tank. Then they've got the tank commander who's aiming. And then they've got the person whose whole job is to load it and press the button. It's great. And they've got some kind of like pressurized air system to eject the spent 2 liter bottle. That's still like way too much.
well, because that's where again it's like what are they trying to do? Like is that fun for them? Which
Me,
in
yeah,
in
it's got to be. They have to enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point?
I mean, but in the sense of like the notion of what they're doing, like the idea if somebody is um doing Confederate Army reenactments and they're on the South and they're having fun.
That's fucked up.
Right.
That's just
Yes.
straight
Like
up fucked
there's a
up.
whole lot to unpack with this person. So this is where I'm saying like if somebody's actually having fun pretending to load artillery into a tank and like that's what they do in their free time for fun and they are actually having fun, there's so much to unpack there. Which again, I think in America, a significant portion of the people are reenacting war virtually, starting at age 12. So it's not like America is a good example of people spending their free time.
So ATC Sim is a browser-based air traffic controller simulator. No plugins or additional software required to play. I just want to. This to me is one of the scariest things that exists because air traffic controllers already have a really rough job, a really high suicide rate, super stressful all day. I can't imagine anyone wanting to like play this game, run this simulator. Like, I can't see how that would be fun. That's work. Maybe it's a training program, but it doesn't look like that.
I, I almost feel like it's that that person who is obsessively learning skills in case that scenario plays out.
In case they're somehow on a tour of an air traffic controller tower and like
Exactly.
everyone
And
gets sick at the same time and they
it's
have to like
fucking
manage
Die
all
Hard
incoming
2 and they got to
flights.
go in the fucking tower and help talk down the plane because the fucking lights are out and
Oh god.
the altitude monitor isn't checking, so they gotta have all of the lingo down, and this is their time to shine. Like that moment.
I mean, so like a convenience store clerk simulator was my previous, like, yeah, this isn't a game, this is just absurd. But compared to this being a convenience store simulator attendant, seems like a cake job. Oh,
Well, and I can imagine
these
writing
can't
the
be
dialogue
fun.
for those types of simulators has to be a lot of fun.
That's probably the
Um,
only thing that's interesting.
but it probably doesn't pay well.
No, I bet no. I bet that's an open source project, like contributor level open source project. Yeah. Oh, there's more than one. ATC Manager 2, Open Scope Traffic Control Simulator,
Well, I was always hoping that
X.
those would cross over with the flight simulators. So if somebody actually wanted to play those games, then they could um, traffic in actual simulated flights. But it didn't ever seem like that was going on when I was playing.
So
But
apparently, Flight Simulator can use add-ons like FS HUD and AI ATC or online networks for interaction with real volunteer controllers. So there actually is a.
yeah,
But who wants to do that?
I mean, some autistic asshole out
Oh man.
there.
You're coming in too fast. Your nose is pointed too
Right?
far up. Slow down.
Whoever was the hall monitor in
Yeah.
elementary school.
Trim your tail. Reduce speed. Your gear is not down.
Right. Yeah. That type. Like, no, that does not sound fun at all.
No, that's horrible.
But then again, none of the premises of the Fallout games don't really sound fun. But then when you play them, it's it's a lot of fun actually, but not in a this is one of those things I've been thinking about where the type of entertainment that goes along with dystopian fiction isn't fun, but it's amused. Or I feel like in French they would call it amusant. Um
Oh, the
like
amusant scène.
and it's like amusing kind in English I feel like has more happy associated with it, whereas like Fallout is definitely not happy or that type of fiction and that type of video game or adaptation. And that's where again I'm like interacting with it, it may make you laugh and it may make you like be like, oh, that's funny in the very loosest sense of the term, but it's not actually something where if you think about it for too long, you're like, okay, this is not something that I would normally spend free time indulging in terms of this particular type of plot where everybody sucks, everybody's a shit, like got shit morals,
It's
and then when
funny
you think it
when
can't get worse, they get worse.
yeah, it's like it's funny when Homer Simpson falls down off a cliff and bounces down like 30 times, and then when they get him to the top on a gurney, the gurney rolls down and he goes back down again. That's funny in an absurd kind of way, but when I see videos of like EMT fails where the gurney does get loose and that like 300-pound thing falls over, that shit's not funny. It's like actually kind of terrifying to watch. And not the AI ones where they tumble down like the boulder from Indiana Jones, but they just fall over on their side. Actually, a lot of videos that are on YouTube just they're not. I think some people derive some kind of like humor out of it, but a lot of it I like any kind of pretty much any time I see a car accident video, it's not funny. It's just like holy shit, how the fuck did that even happen? Um, the only time I find myself genuinely amused is when someone like, you know, careens off road, goes into a drainage ditch, and then hits like an embankment and goes flying, like Dukes of Hazzard style. But even then, it's only funny for like an instant, like a whoa, and then you realize, yeah, that just like destroyed multiple vehicles or whatever it does. They always destroy something. Like the part of me that, for whatever reason, keeps watching car accident videos, even though. And there, at first, I thought maybe I'll like glean something about like the traffic conditions that lead up to these things, or the kind of behaviors that drivers have leading up to these kinds of experiences. But there's like no pattern other than people just driving recklessly. And a lot of these things I can't even say with any certainty because I wasn't there. I can only assume they were driving. I can see they're driving recklessly, but I can only assume that they just don't care about themselves or other people. Like they might have kids, but they don't care.
Right. I mean, but it is telemetry data
Yeah,
where, I think there's not a pattern, but there are precursors.
yeah,
And every time you see a red flag and there is subsequently an accident, that red flag becomes something you can look out for to prevent an accident, mainly because when you don't get into an accident because you heeded one of your red flag warnings, then it just becomes a non-incident where
yeah.
if
That's a good
something
point.
that's why it's so deceptive.
That's a really good point. Actually, we don't even realize that shit happened if nothing happens. Like it happens
That's
down the road because
that's
we
why
weren't there for it.
the way you said it is why it's so deceptive. Mainly, if somebody runs a red light and you fucking recognize it and you stop, nothing actually happened. Whereas them running a red light is some shit driving, and it could have led to an accident, but the subsequent accident not happening ends up making it something that doesn't get marked down in the memory, and then by proxy it doesn't count towards anything in terms of reinforcing, oh yeah, I should keep recording telemetry on other people's accidents. So it feels frivolous when in reality it is like, as long as you actually pay attention to the right things, you're preventing yourself. That's how social learning works, or that's how it's meant to work.
Yeah.
So everybody doesn't have to go through fucking locking up their brakes and then hitting a wall.
Today I heard a like an old Crown Vic police cruiser slam on its brakes and slide to a halt. It didn't slide into the road; it just came to a halt. But when I went around the corner to look at it, it was just sitting there, and then the guy was trying to start it. Like he stopped it so hard it killed it. I'm pretty sure that's one of those wreck precursors. That kind of behavior. also when they left in a fury, like they were going somewhere. This isn't like a modern police car. This is, the police cars from when we were in high school. Man, that's like a classic police car now.
Talking about those
Crown
Crown
V's.
Vic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, they were the good mix of lightweight or lighter weight and power, whereas um, a lot of American cars just ended up being too heavy.
Yeah.
So then the cop cars could catch them. It wasn't like they had the highest top end, but it's like, yeah, you try to do a few turns, they're gonna catch you.
My memory of American cars is limited because I think most of the vehicles I've had have all been like Japanese. I've had a couple of Volkswagens, but they've all been Mazdas or Toyota. I've had I mean, other than the trucks, but I don't think trucks are cars. I guess I had a minivan. That's kind of a car. It's like a giant car. I think American cars are all big. They're supposed to be big and comfy and have enough trunk space for like everyone to bring an entire whole ass suitcase full of stuff for a week, even though they're only going to be gone for 2 days.
Pretty much.
That doesn't need to go fast. That just needs to go in a straight line and have air conditioning and be able to stop. We also live in a country that's like its own whole ass continent with country-sized states and mostly straight roads. Like they ignored the topography of the land in a lot of places and just said, "Yeah, we're going to make a road that's going to go in a straight line. It'll make everything easier." And
It's a very, very Roman way.
yeah, well, I think in a lot of ways it does make things easier, like conceptually. But I think like maintenance for that kind of stuff is the hard part.
It's a very simple, childlike way of thinking about things. I'm just gonna go in a straight line.
I mean, it sounds like it's. I realize that I sound fucking ridiculous when I say that out loud, but when you look at a map, there are a lot of really straight roads. Like they're not really deviating anywhere, unless there's some like insurmountable geological feature, and then they call it a national park. But it makes sense, like the way that the interstates all like lined out, like how the directionality of whole numbers and even in odd numbers, that kind of stuff. The direction they get taller or the numbers get bigger. I'm not even sure
Right.
that kind of like knowledge or like ability to decipher things is actually important anymore with GPS.
Well, but it's also like it's only really relative if you're driving across the entire country.
Yeah,
And so then locally it doesn't always span enough uh geography to understand what the breakdown of the numbers is. So you don't
yeah.
know.
Oh yeah, one definitely has to go on like a cross country road trip to fully appreciate or even realize how it works.
Yeah. Which, people used to have time to do that, but now nobody actually has the time to do that anymore either. So I think that's where it's like the time and the money to actually engage with America's road system is just not is not something many people have. And if somebody has the time and the money, they're probably not gonna go on the road. They're probably gonna take a plane or not necessarily
So,
go anywhere.
I asked Google, is the cross country road trip still a thing? And the first video that it suggests to me is the reality of cross country road trips with a toddler. What the? I know that it's like important to take kids to like what are they like national parks to important cultural sites, I guess. But a toddler in a car for extended periods of time just sounds like a real bad idea. I don't have kids. That sounds like a terrible idea, actually. Especially if there's any kind of like elevation change where there's going to be like, inner ear pressure imbalance.
I mean, there's a good portion of people who live in their cars for YouTube, and then they're traveling and going from campsite to campsite. Um, but that's not sustainable for more than a couple. I think people can do it for a couple years, and maybe there's like,
And then they end up becoming really weird and oddly socialized.
oh yeah, I mean that happens really quick. Um, that happens very quickly, and then you see, the showering at fucking truck stops and shit, where it seems like the truck stops have decent showers, but I think a person can only live that way for so long.
Wouldn't that be like the reason to have a Planet Fitness membership? You just go use their showers. Does Planet Fitness membership go to across the country?
Right, but that I think that's the same. Like, if anything, they get a more private shower at the truck stops.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like the Planet Fitness, I don't know if they're open or not, but
You have to have the Planet Fitness Black Card, which offers access to any location worldwide. I wouldn't have known that they had 2,700 plus locations in the United States. Wow, I'm not trying to do a commercial for Planet Fitness. Holy crap! I was actually kind of like I didn't realize it was this big. I,
I mean, those things become real estate companies when it's that big. It's
oh
like
yeah, yeah.
a real estate company that happens to have gyms on top.
Well, then at that point the gym is just a placeholder until somebody who has a more profitable business model comes in and says they want the space, and then they can just sublease the space if they don't own it. Then they make more money.
I'll give you, yeah, BlackRock is one of the biggest holders.
Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
So the BlackRock comes from Planet Fitness. I like that. I like this. That's the goal of the denizens of Planet Fitness to scale Mount Fitness and assume the BlackRock, the title of the BlackRock holder. It's just a share of the BlackRock, though. You can't hold the whole thing. Ugh. I'm pretty sure there was like a Planet Fitness scandal not too long ago. Someone was
Like this week.
yeah, like rubbing one out in the ladies'
Yep.
room.
Yeah, that happened this week. Or at least it blew up this week.
Ugh. What's wrong with
Well,
people?
because then they like supposedly kicked out the woman who filmed it and not the person who did it. But
Wait, what?
that's suspect. I feel like that's some right wing spin.
They kicked the lady out who reported it, but then the dude who was choking the chicken and it, oh, and it was in the women's room too. Even better.
Well, and that's where again it's like the woman who took the photo or the video got banned and was trying to make it seem like they didn't ban the other person, but like there's no actual story that weird.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's like this just happened and then disappeared practically.
Oh, it happened last year,
No, it happened
but
on the in yeah, it did. It did in August.
then it like started trending this week because they had it on Fox News this week, like on their
Original video posted in May. Holy cow.
yeah, it feels like Fox News is recycling their shit, and then it like got picked up again.
Isn't that the nature of the internet?
Yeah.
Like that's like the animatronic Spider-Man that I just finally saw that happened like years ago. Which, by the way, is even like crazier to me that this like that it does what it does now versus the video that was released 4 years ago. Although it did have an accident, so that was probably bound to happen. It's a machine. Can't It's not going to be flawless every time. There's just no way. It's got parts that wear out, moving parts.
Well, but you saw the video of it succeeding when it first came out. It kept fucking up,
Yeah, no,
and
I
it was
saw a
like
bunch of
going
videos of it.
into the walls and shit. So it definitely it took a lot of calibration before they got it finally dialed in, which is like anytime robotics show the final uh like success of it actually executing the way it's meant to, it looks impressive, but that's also excluding all of the failures in the highlight reel.
Oh, exactly. We don't know if any of the weird shit happened because we only get the best of the blooper reel. We don't get to see any times things actually go wild. And like even Boston Dynamics, they when they had their like blooper reel where they were showing like the progress of developing the robots that can do cartwheels and flips and stuff. How like every so often one would just misstep and then it would break a hose and start spraying hydraulic fluid everywhere. I'm sure that shit happened way more than just the one time they referenced that in the video. Same thing with a lot of it, like advanced technologies. Like I'm sure that occasionally they get it right. Like maybe not the first time, but they've got to iterate. You 3D print stuff. How many times do you have to like do something before you like have it figured out for a certain type of thing? And then does that even apply to the next thing that you're going to 3D print? How much of it? How much of the like from one setup and like transfers to the next thing that you're going to print?
Yeah, not everything is pretty much its own object, which some of the parts transfer, um, but it everything doesn't always behave the same way. So it's like you may be able to do one object and have an overhang without supports and it's fine, but then you print something where it's smaller and the overhang is smaller and you're like, oh, the other thing worked, this should work, and then it won't. um it's like every time I think this is where the gambler's fallacy comes in that every time is different conditions, but it feels like it's the same thing because it's the same object. Um, like whether it's the humidity or the ambient air temperature, or um like how much air is moving, like the actual, if the window's open or closed. um all of those things affect how the print cools in ways where you're like, you want to control it, and then you can isolate it, put it in a container, and get the environment slightly more controlled, but then you can't really see it as well. So then, by the more you try to exert control of the environment, then it makes like other problems come up. So it's like nobody ever gets to 100% print accuracy. There's always some shit that either fucks up because the print process fucks up, or the print itself doesn't, the materials deform for whatever reason, and it may not be enough where it's not functional and you can't use it, but it's just enough where you're like, this, it's not what you wanted, it's not what you were trying to print. And
It's just a little bit off.
right, and it's those types of things where I think even there was a promise of 3D printing that it was going to be like the replicators, but even the highest ends aren't there, like mainly because the materials can't do the things that they need to do to be functional, which is why 3D printed shoes are more common now, but they're not 3D printing. They'll 3D print the whole shoe when they do, but it's not like a shoe that has laces or something.
Yeah,
It's like
it's like
they
one of
can
those
only print
jelly
certain
shoes.
shapes, right?
Well, did you see the AI designed 3D printed copper jet nozzle? The one that has to be like liquid nitrogen cooled and shoots out green flames and has really beautiful the the cones that form outside of it. It's real small, but I keep watching. I kept watching this video and thinking like that flame's green. That means it's like burning itself up as it's running. I wonder how many times they can use that thing that's 3D printed. And then you mentioned like, yeah, it's like there's always going to be some kind of weird imperfection. How? I mean, I don't know what I'm even asking. What at some point like 3D printing is gonna make it into like mainstream products is what I'm afraid of, and we're gonna have these things that are like,
Oh, it already has. It just, the issue is people don't know what to look for, and then the better 3D printers don't leave traces of the print the same way that the cheaper printers do. So that's also where like now I'm able to like pick out, oh, this is 3D printed, which there's nothing wrong with the 3D print so much as a vacuum molded uh like, what's the word, it's like the I guess the mold. um
well, anything that's cast is gonna have a really high degree of like detail if it's made right.
right, but the issue becomes then when you have the piece that's done from a mold, it doesn't have striations from print lines, and then
Mm.
the the best printers that go line by line can get so fine that you don't really perceive the lines, or they can go in patterns that make it so that the lines aren't really that perceptible, but it's still something where But okay, that's with the nozzle printers, but then there's resin printers that use mold, so it's like they don't have the same type of visible issues, but then it's like they're what the resin printing is way more dangerous in terms of fumes that you breathe in, and it's so much easier to end up getting some shit where you're breathing in some shit that's definitely going to give you cancer in a way that it happens slow enough that you're not going to perceive it, and so you just keep printing your little heart out thinking, oh, I'm getting some fucking Warhammer 40K figures cheaper. Meanwhile, you're like giving yourself lung cancer because of the fumes. So it was like shit like that after it's not really evident because it's not all that toxic and it's not all equally toxic. So the warnings are not ubiquitous and the warnings are not they're not made in a way where people are going to understand the trade-offs. So then they think it's worth it to do the resin printing because then I'll save like so much and they
And I remember
don't
like,
really. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know, I think it was like a little bit over a decade ago. A buddy of mine was like, "Hey, do you want to pitch in and get a 3D printer?" I said, "Yeah, what am I going to print with that?" He's like, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, what are you going to print?" And he said, like he described these like plastic coat hanger things that he was going to attach to his wall. And so like the pitch wasn't enough for me because I couldn't really think of anything that I needed a 3D print that I that I was going to do in scale. And then I think after like looking into it, the 3D printer that he wanted to get, it used a kind of filament that was like notorious for spitting out these like micro hairs length or these lengths of micro hair sized plastic into the air. It would just spit them out. And so now a room is full of just all sorts of tiny little pieces of plastic. Is that the stuff you're talking about? People breathing in?
Kind of. That's one of the problems, but then it's like you're heating it up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, um, ish. Sometimes lower, sometimes a little higher, and yeah, then the particles get into the air, and then if you're in an enclosed area, it's way worse. But even if it's open air, you're still gonna be breathing in some of the shit if it's like too close to your working space. And then the issue becomes you have to kind of monitor it to make sure the print doesn't go awry. So it's like you can get a camera to monitor it, but then if shit goes wrong and it's by camera, then you have to. People don't set up a camera for putting a print in the next room. And then if people are setting up a camera and they're printing in like a garage where they're not um, able to save it if the print goes wrong quickly, then their prints go wrong far too frequently and it doesn't end up staying worth it. So there's this weird line where you're like you said, the only reason I even got into it was just to understand it. And I wasn't gonna spend like, you know, any crazy amount because it is if you're gonna spend money on something, you're better off having someone who has industrial machining to build that thing rather than what basically any person can put in their home. Like a a nice a really nice home can get a lathe and an oven for doing clay and you can get some really good machining in a home
I know one. I know
workshop
one guy.
that's
He's a
like,
woodworker. He's a professional who makes furniture. He's got like industrial machines for like putting on veneers and all that stuff. And he has to have a three-phase inverter in his warehouse workshop because he only has one device that needs it. But when he needs it, he needs it. Like that's not like a normal level woodworking thing. Like normal people don't have that. Like a normal person might have like a more mainstream consumer version of those tools, but like the difference, and this is speaking to your point about like normal people. Like he's not a normal woodworker. Like even like artisans that I've known, like their wood shops are always like really focused on the things that they do. But this guy has enough machines that he can make like any kind of furniture that you could think of, and he's got a whole ass building to put them in. Like I've got a decently sized garage, but makes mine feel small. And so yeah, it's like it's not a normal thing.
and then you realize he's got that, but can he do metalworking? And so it's like you can't do everything.
No,
So it's like you have to really come to the conclusion that your thing is only going to be hobby grade compared to what an industrial output could be.
yeah,
But even in that, then I saw um, someone was trying to do industrial 3D printing output, and the learning curve is such that, well, then they figured out what they were going to make. They started making it, and then they started using different materials. Well, one of the materials they chose, carbon fiber, it started splintering. So then basically all of the investment they had in that filament was useless, and they couldn't use it they were trying to make pill boxes. So it was like, yeah, if you're going to be ingesting the thing, there's no way you can use this container that's going to be shedding carbon fiber, and then you possibly ingest carbon fiber filament because this person was trying to create an industrial factory 3D printing starting from the bottom, and they didn't understand every aspect, because then it's like there might have been something that he could put over it as a finish to prevent that, but it was too late in the investment, and all of the things he had already started splintering. So it was like,
man,
it's not worth the
some of these
research at that point.
industrial 3D print head extruders start at like $1,000, $2,000. Here's one for $6,800. Here's a company that makes custom industrial 3D printer dual extruder. Top of the line is $70,000. Um, here's an all-in-one solution that makes small stuff. It's $100,000. It's the size of a refrigerator. Here's another one. It's the size of like 3 refrigerators, and it's $145,000. But it doesn't look like it makes things much bigger. These are here's one, an affordable one. I don't hold on. It's gonna pop up. $50,000.
And to be fair with those, the bigger ones, they have 3D printers that are big enough to print pieces of furniture.
Yeah.
And they have wooden filament that's, I think it's like 60%, which then at that point you're getting stuff that is on par with the lower quality IKEA furniture. And so it's not on par with
machined woodworking stuff.
Yeah, your friend you're talking about is never going to be on par with that.
No, he can't produce at that scale. He's one dude.
It may be something where if you like his stuff, you can't afford it, but you can afford a 3D printed version of it that's like...
Yeah, and like what he does is he builds like custom cabinets and like kitchens and like built-in stuff that's like fit to a space. But I think that's the thing is like eventually 3D printing will get to that place where
I don't know if it will though. I think
know it would if we need it. We don't need it though.
I don't know. Even if we needed it, I don't know if it's possible. For this is one of those things that tech bros have claimed these things for so long, but after seeing 3D printing up close and seeing how they have 3D printed houses that are just straight up 3D printing concrete, but the problems
the
that come with
the
them
street have a 3D printed swimming pool.
Yeah, and it's like these things
I don't think they actually need to be.
they
in the
may
hands of the
never
consumer.
well, but it's like they'll always fill this niche, but they're never actually going to compete with the highest end of somebody who builds it with their hands. And this is where I having seen it up close and having worked with it, I'm like, there is a gap that the eye has and that the hand has and the capacity to switch tools that the 3D printer will be limited by. And even in all having all these degrees of freedom, there's going to be things that then you'll still have to come in and sand it. Like it's not going to be able to come out of it's never going to be able to come out of the box and compete with the top of what the finished product is, which is like that's fine. I think that's it,
I don't
that's
think it
okay.
needs to. I don't
It
think
doesn't
has
need to. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't have the same.
It'll eventually reach a place where the quality is more than good enough. The durability is more than good enough, and it'll be affordable enough, and that that's the gap it'll fill. It'll be for rapid deployment. So like instead of bringing a bunch of equipment to a moon base, they just send a 3D printer with a few giant ass containers with filament and build out their stuff, whatever they need. Maybe they use local materials as part of the medium, so it's like concrete when they do the 3D printed swimming pool. Maybe there's a way that a moon base takes advantage of 3D printing in a way that's practical on the moon, but kind of like, well, why would we do that here? So yeah, maybe it is supposed to be like a replicator, just nowhere near as advanced. We can't make apples out of shit.